Man, we're back again.
We're back again, middle of the summer.
Middle of the summer. It's a little bit warm. I feel like it got a little bit warmer this year, faster than it did last year.
It did. It seemed like in the spring we had all this nice weather, June, and all of a sudden, it's summer.
It's hot, but I'll take that. It's not 13 below like it was earlier in the winter time.
That was the worst winter we've ever had, for sure.
It was. So
a mild summer. So did you celebrate the 4th of July?
We did. It was a great 4th of July. Here where we live, Oklahoma, it's like World War III. I mean,
You get out of the city limits sometimes in.
I don't know what people are dropping on fireworks, but I'm glad that they are, because I don't have to leave we really don't even drive very far from our house to go and
to get where it's legal, and it's like
yeah, everybody from it's the 360-degree view of everything. How about you guys?
Yeah, exactly. We can sit on our front porch if we don't go somewhere, and we can see almost a 180. There's something going off all the time, so it's pretty cool.
It is so much fun. But yeah, 4th of July was a lot of fun. Enjoyed that tremendously. Really only counting down till about a month till school starts back up, football, all that stuff. It's crazy how fast it's gone.
Football's great.
Yeah.
The kids just don't like it I can remember being a kid, and the first time you walked in the store and they had their back to school stuff off, and my stomach just hurting. It's like, no, summer can't be over.
And all the parents are like, yeah.
Yeah, and my mom said,
Praise the Lord.
high-fiving other moms. And so it's like...
It is good. Hey, so today we're talking about something that, man, everybody is talking about today when it comes to the world. And I feel like every time I turn on the TV, every time it's somebody else is like, oh, they're cancel culture is part of this, what we're talking about today as well. But everybody's being offended by anything and everything, and they're voicing their distaste for whenever they become offended, and then they're attempting to get that person that offended them shut down in whatever way. And I'm seeing it everywhere. So today we feel like it's something that we want to talk about. We want to talk about what does being offended look like? Is it good or is it bad? Why have you offended me at times? And we're going to talk that out as well.
You're offending me right now.
So yeah, which is good. That's a good illustration. And so today we're talking about offending because it's absolutely important, and it is something that as men we are dealing with today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of being offended, I mean, it's just almost hard to define now, because something I'll read or hear, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that would offend someone. So I think I would think of being offensive is really when you say something and offend somebody else. Whether it hurts them, are they too sensitive? Are you saying something insensitive? Are you saying something out of anger? There's a lot of times that people know they're being offensive. Yeah. I think today we're learning about things that could be offensive, but I think a lot of times we don't really realize we're being offensive to someone else. So how does that fit in, and how do we honor God, I guess, in this culture is probably what I struggle with more than anything, and love people, and just thinking, God, I don't know why is it so prevalent today?
Right. And when I look at everything that's going on when it comes to this topic specifically, and yes, you're right, there are times that people just naturally want to offend, like that. They're just being jerks. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
There's other times that people have thin skin, and somebody speaks a little bit of truth into their life, and they're like, wait a second. I disagree with you. Therefore, as opposed to having a normal conversation, I'm just going to take it to the level of, I'm being offended, get away from me, you're wrong, and I don't want to hear anything from you. But after all this is said and done, regardless of who or not, whether you're being offended or offensive to someone else, we have to really take it from the context of the ultimate person we're offending, and you start there, and that's God. Are we offending God within our way we live our lives, with the way? And I think we even taken it from that direction today a little bit more as well, saying, okay, how does our lives reflect that in that aspect of things? Are we offending God more than are we worried about offending God than we are about other people as well?
Right. And I think if we, for us as Christians, if you're a Christian, then that's our first go-to.
Yeah.
If I'm not offending God. And offending God, if I offend someone else, if I get angry with you and say some real hurtful things to you and offend you, well, that's also offended God, because I've sinned against you. And so that's kind of a filter that we need to go through.
It comes into play. So definitely lots of things we can talk about today, just from a time standpoint. We're going to jump right in. But if you're listening, thanks for listening. We're thankful that you guys are here, and we can continue to broadcast what we're doing to your friends and your family. Let us know, because we are excited about what God is doing through a Better Man podcast. But do you think in today's society we have taken being offensive, like we said, do you think it's gone too far?
I think it is. And I don't know, as I thought about that, I'm not sure I know why I think it's gone too far. Sometimes it's just a gut thing. I mean, we do have freedom of speech, and it seems like that gets challenged a lot today.
Tons.
And so I think what you said a while ago, if you're speaking truth, or you're just trying to have a discussion with someone, or you're just trying to share your point of view, sometimes you can't even do that without offending someone. So I think we've lost something there, because I think we grow by listening to other people, by hearing what they're saying, and then you can decide what you want to do with it. That doesn't mean if I'm talking to you, I just would like you to hear me, and then you can decide what you want, or you can tell me your perspective so I can hear that. But I think so many times now, we cut people off and we don't listen to them, or we put them in a box, or you're this kind of person, or you're that kind of person. So there's no way you could say anything that has any value at all to me. And I just don't think that's good.
You're not willing to listen to what somebody else has to say, and being challenged in your views of certain things, because you're, like you said, you just shut them off. Like, I don't have to deal with it.
And I want to, I think most of the times I have grown over the years is being challenged. And God challenges me.
Yes.
His word challenges me. Well, if I didn't read it, if I got offended because God says, don't commit adultery, well, I want to commit adultery. I want to have an affair. No, that's wrong.
Right.
And so that's not offending. It's teaching me. It's helping me to grow. It's helping me to value marriage, to cherish my wife. And so.
No, it's absolutely, no. I get so frustrated when there's opportunities for us to challenge somebody in the way that they're thinking, and we do that. We don't do this with anything, like certain aspects. When this comes with, like you said, adultery or pornography, or you're cheating on something, somebody challenges you. Typically, it's like, okay, I might be offensive to you, but it's because it's for the very best of who you are,
exactly,
and what you're supposed to be doing. But nowadays, if it's that person, it feels like this, and maybe it's just because we're watching on the mainstream media and everything that's going on television. You see so much of this happening, is so prevalent, and maybe it's not as big of a deal as it just feels like that is today in that aspect. But you challenge somebody, you offend them, regardless of it's something that you feel like is beneficial to their lives and it's going to help them. They take it personally, and they have the ability to shut you down and not even listen to it. We're not growing. We're not getting better because of it.
And I think some people look for opportunities to be offended.
They do.
And I think that's hard. Just because Bob burped in front of you doesn't mean that he was trying to offend you. He may have had, something going on in here.
Yeah. He had some digestive issues.
Digestive
it wasn't a complete accident.
And he wasn't trying to offend you.
Do you think it's wrong to offend people?
That's a great question. I think it goes back to your heart.
Okay.
If my heart is angry, or if my heart's full of jealousy or something like that, and I say something, that's not right. That's going to be wrong. If I see you flirting with someone, and I say, "Hey, man, you've got a great wife. You're a pastor. You are committed to living a godly life. What are you doing?
What's wrong with you?" Yeah.
That's not. That you might be offended at that, but I'm speaking truth to you, and I'm trying to come alongside you and help you. And I think that's the difference. And I think that's just sometimes in just sharing what we think about something. If I read a book and I really like something in it, I'm sharing that with you. Well, it may be different than maybe some of your beliefs, but that shouldn't offend you. It should be, okay, I'd see that. I might read that book too, see if I can get something out of it. I might, but no, this is why I don't agree with you. And so I think it cuts off some of that great dialogue that we grow from.
So being offensive, it's not always wrong to be offensive when we're gauging it with our hearts. We're saying, hey, I really want truly the best for this person.
Yeah.
And I'm not after you because I hate you or because I think you're a terrible person. I'm after you because I see something that's going on that could be detrimental to who you are as a person, to your walk with Christ, or to your family life. I'm going to speak into this. I'm going to offend you a little bit, but out of love. It's almost more of I'm accountability. I'm speaking truth into your life to some degree in that aspect. When it gets to that level of offending, it's offensive in a way that's more accountability.
No, I think you're right there, and so that's okay. And I think the other thing that we probably should talk about on here is really if I'm talking to you, I know you pretty well.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of a student of you. I think you want to say things in a way that the other person can hear.
Yep.
I know if I start screaming at you, you're not gonna hear anything I'm saying. Or you hit me. Like you did the other day.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what in the world is going on with Dr.
So, but I think that's our responsibility to if I say something and I just do it real dogmatically, and I know someone might have a little different view, well, that's not get there. But if I say, hey, listen, this is something I was thinking about. Would you listen to this and consider this, and let's talk about it? Then I don't think it may be offensive in the way it really challenges you.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'm saying a way. My intention is to come alongside you and help you.
The context of how you're communicating it is and the relationship is key.
Right.
What do you? And that is absolutely that is essential. It is important, and all that has to be played a part into that. How do you feel like with the world today when it comes to what you're watching on TV, and everybody gets offended by everything, and then this thing called cancel culture? What do you think about all that?
I think it's tough.
Yeah.
I think what are we
frustrated? It fires me up.
It's kind of like, what are we trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
What are we really trying to do there? And is it in the big picture? Is it healthy? And I know some people are doing things that maybe they're very committed to that or they believe that. But I think sometimes we don't look at the bigger picture of what's happening and what's being done.
Yeah, they don't. No one's really willing to look at another person's perspective on something. They automatically just take their side with what they believe strongly about, which is great. You should believe strongly about without fully listening to the other person. And when the other person wants to communicate how they are, who they are, what they believe, we instantly become it's anger.
Yeah, absolutely.
It becomes an angry situation, and then that's when they cancel, which is not good for any society. It's not good for men in general, any of us, when we can't take two different perspectives and listen to both of them reasonably and like adults.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can go back in history and see that really never worked anywhere. No. It didn't work in Germany in Hitler's time. Right. It hasn't worked in other dictatorships or situations like that. America was founded on freedom of speech and on freedom of being who God created us to be and how we see that and how that plays out with our personalities. And I just think it's wrong to stifle that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When it comes to our faith, and we've talked about society, we've talked about culture, we see that we have to be very careful as men to not allow that to consume us as well, because I can get fired up about that and say, what do you mean this person? And defend them. But that doesn't do me good, nor does it do the people that I'm around well when it comes to talking about this situation, making it better, right? Resolving this thing called
and I think I think what you're saying there too is what do you want in the end? To me, I just want someone to listen to me, and then I want to return that by listening to them. I don't want to mow them down.
No. You can set the precedence now of how you want this to look and how you respond to someone else that disagrees with you. You can change that, even if you're frustrated with the way things are going in the candy. You getting mad and angry about it isn't going to help the situation.
No, and you may be right. Maybe that person really is committing a sin that's just obvious and blatant.
I typically am right with it. I'm like, no, that person's wrong. I'm right. That's the problem.
Yeah. Have I been wrong lately?
No, I mean,
most of the time.
Most of the time, but we'll talk about it off when we're done.
Yes, so I have no idea where I was going with that. But anyway, I think being right does not always mean that you've got to say it in the right way. Yeah. Jesus was a master at it. He knew when to say it in a very maybe affirmative way. He knew how to say it gently, but he was speaking truth. But he knew the people he was speaking to, and he said it so they could hear him. Now, the Pharisees, people like that, it offended them because he was speaking truth. And they didn't want to have a dialogue with him. They decided they wanted to kill him.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with somebody when they're speaking truth. And you may be saying the exact, for me, I'm listening and saying, biblically speaking, what you believe is not right. And so I believe what I'm believing is the truth, but that doesn't give me the right to sit there and tear you down. Make you feel terrible, make you feel, or not listen to what you have to say. There has to be that context and give me the opportunity to speak the truth that I know is there to you as well, and do it in a civil way. But Jesus he was perfect at that, and he also spoke that truth out of grace, and his points were made. Like, they could not argue what he was speaking about.
Exactly.
Anytime when it comes to canceling or anything or being offended, if you use the Bible in your arguments or in that, it's really hard to argue against that aspect of things.
And even if someone is very against the Bible, and in that situation, they're probably not going to hear you. But most people have a respect for the Bible, even if they don't see it as we do, as God's perfect word for our lives.
And first, I was mentioning faith a little bit and how our faith intertwines with this and being offended. But really, do you feel like as a society, as men in general, are we really concerned with whether or not we're offending God in the way that we live? Or are we so more consumed with how other people are viewing this cancel culture? Are we really taking time to say, okay, what am I doing? I think of the verse that search my heart, O God, test my anxious thoughts, see if there's any offensive thing within me, and lead me in the way everlasting.
Yeah.
And is there within our own hearts, are we really worried about if we're offending God?
Yeah. I say that verse every day because I want that, and because I know I offend God, and sometimes I know I'm doing it, and sometimes I don't. So I want him to reveal those things, and then I want to go to him and be able to heal the things I'm not. I think in general, we kind of do what we want to do.
Yeah.
And we can justify a lot of the things we say, our behaviors, those kind of things. And so I don't know that we always run it through that filter of, am I offending God? I think it's what we need to do.
Oh, yeah.
I think we need to do it every day in everything we say. And sometimes it's just taking time to think, ooh, what is this really going to mean? And the other thing we've talked about a lot of times, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said now? Does it need to be said by me? If we just take in that, and then I just add to that, how does God look at this?
Yep.
And if those don't check out, then probably it's like, okay, don't say it. And I think sometimes we have trouble not saying something. It's like, ugh, I know I shouldn't, but I say it anyway. And I've had people say that. You said, or they'll preface it, I know I shouldn't say this, but, and they say it.
You're
and
going to
it's
say
like,
it anyway.
Okay, why'd you say it? You said you, but you said it.
You said that hurts that, and that legitimately at that time, it's like, you shouldn't have said that because that was just harsh. And
and I think
your heart's not in the right spot.
No, and I think sometimes we just say because we want to say it, or we want it gives us the upper hand, or it's a win, or I think all those guys that guys we struggle with of being competitive and all that kind of stuff, and so we'll cross that line. But in the big picture, do you really win if you've offended God, or if you've lost a friend or a potential friend?
Yeah. You need to be able to sit there, and before you even have something that you say or have something that you feel like you need to say, you better be searching your heart and saying, God, how much of this is me and how much of it is this person that needs to hear this? I'm just going to say it because it makes me feel good and makes me look better than this other person. Yeah. You don't need to be saying something like that. It's your heart issues in that aspect of things. I do look at it as society as a whole, and when it comes to men in general, there's so much that we a lot of times don't mind speaking our minds or saying things that need to, but I don't think from a faith standpoint we are necessarily as worried about whether or not we're offending the heart of God. We'll continue to live our life day in and day out doing the same things over and over and over again, but not asking ourselves, okay, man, this really is not honoring to God. I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be looking at this. I shouldn't be listening to this. I shouldn't be acting like this. I should be doing more of it. Like we're not nearly as consumed with that as we should be.
Absolutely. And I think, what I've done in the past, I'm working hard not to do anymore, is that God's going to forgive me.
Yes.
So I'll cross that line and he is going to forgive me. And he does, and he will, and that doesn't take away from that. But is it really growing your relationship with him? Are you putting a barrier there? Are you offending him?
Yeah, and that should be the biggest thing that we're worried about right now in the world, is if we are offending God. We need men that are going to stand up and say, hey, I'm not perfect, but I'm saying what I'm saying because I know God is telling me, and this is the right thing to say because it's biblical, because God is, and I'd rather offend you than I'd offend God right now. And I'm standing up for what I believe in and what I know is truth and what I know is right. And we need a society, we need men, myself included, that are willing to take that stand and say, I won't offend God. I'll offend you, but I will not offend God. And when it comes to what I'm believing today.
So all of that really does come down to our relationship with God, and trying to live a life in the way that honors Him.
Yep.
And then we grow. I think He wants us to grow. And if I'm offending Him, and I don't learn from it, I'm growing. And by not learning from it, it means like, okay, I know I offended Him, I know He forgave me, but I'm going to do it again. It's like, oh, I did offend God, and He forgave me, and with His help, I'm not going to do it again.
So true. I think for me, faith has the God aspect of things is such a missing piece of all of this today, and I'm seeing it happen and play out in the world today. There is that offensive nature is more towards men and women of when we disagree with them, and not worried about by doing that, by speaking negatively or having a hardened heart towards them, am I offending God in that aspect of things too? And that is really a question that I have to ask, because I can get I can get fired up about that stuff as
You know,
well.
yeah, I was thinking back when you were saying that to after 9/11, and the country, from my perspective, was probably as united as I've ever seen it in my lifetime.
Yep.
And there wasn't offensive. You saw people of different races and colors embracing each other, holding hands with each other, caring about each other, listening to each other. And then we lost it. It's like, where did that go? And how, I think, united we felt as a country. I think how connected we felt as a nation. And then we had something that we were all fighting for, and we were turning to God. Churches were more full than they ever have been in centuries, probably, because we came together. And so now we've lost that, and I think we continue to go farther and farther apart from that. And I think if we all took seriously what offends God, we could get back there again.
So true. That is a great taking it back to the time period of that, because you're right, there was a lot more unity, and that's not something we're going to talk about today, but unity is such a missing piece of America today, and how what we're trying to get back to it, but you don't see it happening the way that it is. And the same thing with churches, like you said, the church world has completely shifted because there are so many different viewpoints and nobody's really wants to be, I don't feel like they want to be unified anymore. At least the general pot, like everybody, they do, I should say this, like they're unified in different aspects, but not everybody's unified under one thing as much as they were back in that time period.
No,
and being the cancel culture, the offensive, and not being able to speak your mind, speak truth and love is a piece of that as well.
Yeah.
Because what happens if you do? Like, everything's going to be shut down because or these people are going to attack me because of what I said.
Right.
So there's a little bit of that fear too. It's like, I don't.
Oh, absolutely.
Into that.
You know, look at the people who've lost their jobs because they've said something over on the media or the workplace or something that offended someone. And that doesn't mean we don't be careful what we say, but how far do we carry all of this?
Oh man, yeah, you gotta. But then, like I said, you have to still stand up for what you still have to speak the truth in love.
Exactly.
And even if it gets you fired, or even if it's like it costs you something, if it's biblical and God is like, what you just did was wrong, I'm going to speak into that. I think of situations even in the church world where guys have spoken the truth into the lives of some of their other peers or into the higher ups because what they were doing was wrong, and it cost them.
Yeah.
It cost them something, but they spoke it and they had to. It was the right thing to do. And that's a scary, hard place to be sometimes. Especially if you're a people pleaser like me. Like, I don't want to say this because I want you to like me. But it's like, I need to. I'm called to.
And sometimes we don't because of someone's an authority over us or something like that. But if God's prompting me to say something, I need to say it.
Oh, yeah. I've been reading through Elijah and Elisha. And when God said, you got to say this. You got to say it. Like there were no, and even if they didn't want to say it, they were afraid. They said, "This is what you're supposed to say." I think of, I just had a great illustration with that same thing there that I was thinking through.
Well, what about Jonah?
Jonah's a great example of what.
You want me to go say this? I don't like those people. I don't want you to save them. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Well, then he gets swallowed by a whale and he gets spit up on the shore, and it's like, okay, God, I'll go. And then he gets mad at God after. I knew you'd save him after I went.
I didn't want you to save him. I did all this. Made me think of. Did you hear that story about the guy that got swallowed by a whale recently?
Yes.
Oh, that was fascinating.
I thought it was too.
Sidetrack.
I would not want to be in that position.
But what a story.
I guess the gag reflex of the whale is what spit him out.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
I guess Jonah made it past that.
Yeah, Jonah. I mean, he slept in there for a while.
Which apparently scientifically they've proven that can happen.
I didn't know that they finally found the right thing to be able to.
That they could actually do that for that period of time. I think.
I like it when there's so much to the Bible.
Don't email me if you think.
Yeah, don't. But that would be fascinating. Wells, in general, what made me think of that was the example was John the Baptist when he confronted Herod about the sin of having his brother's wife and what it cost him.
It's it.
I wonder, Dr. Kim, if the culture that we're setting up, that is happening today in the world, in America, in the world, is an opportunity for Christian men to be able to test and say, okay, I say this, it could cost me something but it's going to cost me something in the name of Jesus. And it's worthwhile. And if this is an opportunity for men to start getting, because if I look back over the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, pretty easy going. Like, we haven't had a whole lot of pushback on these things. No. And we know that persecution breeds righteousness. It breeds opportunity for us to grow in our faith and get better. Could that be a part of what's going on with all of this?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think as men, we have a responsibility, and God wants to use us. Yeah. We've just got to be available. You know, one of the guys that I really like, Mark Driscoll, and he got in some trouble in the church he was in. I get all that. But one of the series he did years ago that I liked was tolerance. Are we too tolerant of things that would be offensive to God? And so as we're thinking through as men, you know, what are those lines, and how do we approach it? I don't know that it's can't go around beating up people. You can't go around, you know, how do we, maybe it's just when we have an opportunity one-on-one with someone, or maybe you have an opportunity in your workplace to just begin to sow some seeds of truth in a place that's really could be pretty dark.
So true. Yeah, it's that sowing seeds and letting the light shine, and sometimes it's being Jesus with skin on is what somebody always, one of my favorite things, but you don't always, when I was doing Young Life, it wasn't always what you said is what you did. And people resonate with that. And I think then you get the opportunity to, like you said, speak that truth because they're watching. There's something different about you. I do wonder at the end of the day, like, do we have a society? Is there Christian men in America today? Are we different enough that people look at us and say, I want what he has?
You know that.
What do you think?
Well, what did was it John or Jesus said? They'll know us by our love, I guess.
Yeah.
And so, if we're not showing that love, do they know I'm a Christian? I mean, the way I treat people, the way I act, whether I'm in the grocery store, whether I'm getting gas, whatever I'm doing, how am I treating the people that are around me? Am I cordial to them? Am I speaking to them? Am I caring about them? Am I listening to what they're saying when I'm at the checkout lady and I say, how you doing? And she starts telling me about all the stuff that's going wrong in her life, you know?
Like, I got to go sometime.
And so, you know, so it's like, I think it's our lifestyle. It's lifestyle evangelism. It's trying as much as we can to be Jesus in our homes and then when we walk out of our homes. And for guys too, if you're doing a really good job outside your home, make sure you're doing a good job inside your home too. Yeah. Those are the most important people. And I think the one that God's held us most accountable for is the people that we live with day after day after day, our wife and our kids.
Yeah. No. Definitely makes you pause and think, because that is an aspect of things that even as you're looking at what everything's going on, is this growing and building up a remnant, a foundation of men that are seeing that and are doing that again. And we need that. We need a little push every now and then to say, get off your butts and let's do something different here. And that's what I want you to do.
The other thing I think would be good is when you see a brother, a guy doing that, or your kids, or with me, my grandkids doing that, encourage them, reinforce it. Say, I can't believe, you know, I've got two of my grandsons that are 15 and 18. They have held the doors open for people wherever they are. And it's just people look at them funny sometimes, you know, and because they're maybe afraid of people coming out, but they're doing that. But that's, you know, that's just a simple way of saying, I care about you. I'm putting you before me. And I encourage them when I see things like that, or where I see them. My 15-year-old, I mean, he hates bullies, and he's a big kid, so he doesn't have to worry about much. But when he sees somebody getting bullied, he's right in the middle of it. He said, don't do that. He doesn't start fighting, but he says, don't do that. And he'll take the kid who's been bullied aside and talk to him and encourage him and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Well, those are big deals.
Huge deals.
Yeah. So encourage that when you see somebody doing that, you know.
Point it out and do it in front of other people. So when there's somebody that's done something well, brag in front of other people.
Absolutely.
Brag it to their wife. Like if you see a husband doing something, man, let me tell you what your husband did today, and it was incredible. That's a great way of doing that.
And our wives love hearing that.
Oh yeah, they're like, that's my man.
They love hearing that. Oh man,
you come home, it might be fun times. And
yes, sir. Woo! Kids, take the kids to grandma's. Right? For a week.
For a week. But yeah, as we're talking about, there's a lot of things we can talk about with this. It was fun to kind of go off and see how a lot of this applies to offending. But when it comes to the heart of God, we should, even if someone is offended by what we say, we have to gauge it off of God and say, okay, what is it that we just said? Does it line up with what God is saying that is I'm speaking truth out of love with this person, or is it because of my heart that I'm looking at saying, I just said that because I can't stand them, or I want to make myself look better. But our biggest concern is, are we offending the heart of God with the way that we're living our lives? And that's where we should gauge everything at when it comes to our lives day in and day out. Absolutely.
And when we're in tune with God like that, you're going to know when you're saying something offensive that is not right. God's going to convict you of that, and he's going to help you. He's also going to, those times when you want to speak truth, if you let him, he will help you say that in a way that the other person can hear, if that person's willing to do that.
And you've earned the right to be heard. You're in, like you said, you're in a relationship with that person. You know how to communicate with them in a way that's going to make them feel more comfortable with that. You can speak that truth. But and then also, just when it comes to offending the heart of God, like, are you doing things outside of just how you're talking to people in your daily walk and your time with him? Are you doing things that need to stop because how you're living is also it's counterproductive of what you want to accomplish in your life with God?
So, absolutely.
All that above. But great topic today. Lots of things to still talk about this. If you guys have questions, if there's things that you stand up or like, man, this is a topic, or this is something that with this topic that I want. That stood out to me, and I want to share it with you, man. Because we missed that. There's things I'm like, I didn't even think about that. That's a great thought there, and we'd like to hear it.
Yeah, and I think the questions that are in the notes will give you a chance to sit down with some other guys and talk about some of the things that we've talked about, and encourage them, and maybe together that 1, 2, or 3 people that you're meeting with, you guys decide, yeah, we're going to do this. We're gonna work at not offending God, and we're going to encourage each other in this, and we're going to support each other in this, and we're going to pray for each other.
We're going to get better because of it, right?
Yep.
Which is what we're here to do anyway.
That's what
we're all about. So, thank you guys for joining us today. Look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for what you're doing, and like we say every week, don't be an okay man.
Be a better man. We'll see you guys in August.
See y'all.